Let's decode the intricate world of K-pop group roles and rankings. If you've ever wondered what each member brings to the table in a K-pop group, this explanation will break it down for you. Join me as we explore the unique responsibilities and talents of each position and gain a deeper understanding of how these roles synergize to create the ultimate K-pop group dynamic. While every K-pop idol trains in singing, dancing, and rapping during their training period, it's obvious that some idols will excel in some capacities more than they do in others. As such, many labels will assign idols official roles within their group, oftentimes accompanied by rankings that indicate an idol's relative position within the group in terms of perceived talent and assigned responsibilities. While not every K-pop group will have official positions, when positions do exist, it's common for idols to have more than one role within a group. There's also one position that every K-pop group has. Can you guess what it is? If your first thought was leader, sorry, you're wrong. While I'd say they're the exception and not the rule, there are definitely prominent idol groups out there, like Blackpink, who have no official leader. Most idol groups have leaders who double as liaisons between the record company and their subordinate idol group members, as well as whipping boys when any of their subordinates are perceived to have stepped out of line. A good group leader will also act as a sort of team mom or team dad for their group and will seek to support their members in any way, whether professionally or emotionally. If you want to see a great example of this, I'd point you towards Bangchan from Stray Kids, who is fiercely protective of his occasionally rowdy but deeply loved hand-picked team of maniacs. There are so many other amazing group leaders out there in K-pop though. Who's your favorite? Post in the comments to let me know. It's falling a bit out of favor with some more recent 5th-gen groups, which have eschewed positions and rankings more than some of their predecessors, but most groups are broken down into 3 primary performance roles: vocalists, rappers, and dancers. However, the rankings affiliated with those positions, if they exist, are a little less self-explanatory, but thankfully they're at least consistent across the industry. The main vocalist, rap, or dancer is the idol officially regarded by their management as the best performer in that capacity within their respective group. Usually this role is an exclusive position, but not always. For instance, both Go-eun and Swan from Purple Kiss are considered to be main vocalists. The main performer in each role is typically assigned the most technically complex elements, whether they're the big high notes, the rap solos, or the most prominent position during a dance break. The lead vocalist, rapper, or dancer is akin to the second violin in an orchestra. That terminology can be a little misleading to native speakers of English who think of the lead in the play as being, like the star of the show, but in K-pop, that person is the main. The lead role is more like the equivalent of the Best Supporting Actor or Actress nominee. Lead performers may also receive more technically complex assignments than other members, but oftentimes their function is to support the main. You'll often find lead vocalists maintaining a melody while a main vocalist will ad-lib in the background. Or perhaps a lead rapper will set up a verse with a given rhythm, which then a main rapper will go in and break. Subverting your expectations in that way allows the main rapper to really shine. A sub-vocalist, rapper, or dancer is capable of performing the role in question on occasion, but they typically will not be featured as heavily in that capacity as the higher-ranking members. To be clear, sub-performers are not inherently less valuable as idols. They add color and character to an idol group's sound and aesthetic. Idol groups benefit from incorporating a variety of performers with different skill sets and charms so as to appeal to the widest audience possible. It's also always so exciting when you follow a group for a while and suddenly encounter a sub-performer punching above their weight by totally nailing a complex segment one would typically associate with the main or the lead. Kinda like when the pitcher randomly hits a home run. Like, okay, that's not why we brought you here, but I'll certainly take it. To return to IVE, both Ray and Cowell are competent sub-vocalists, which graciously enabled IVE to forego shoving an unnecessary rap section into Love Dive, if only Afterlight had been so fortunate. An unfortunate trend I've noticed is that idols with deeper vocals, regardless of gender, seem to be less likely to end up in main and lead vocal roles and will most often be found serving as sub-vocalists. Naturally, this saddens my alto heart a bit. For whatever reason, sub-dancer seems to be a pretty uncommon ranking. Main and lead are ubiquitous, but usually if the idol isn't a particularly phenomenal dancer, they just won't call them a dancer at all. If a group includes main, lead, and sub-vocalist, rapper, or dancer roles, and there's a member who lacks such a superlative, such as how Wonyoung is just a vocalist in IVE, which also has main, lead, and sub-vocalists, standards. Those performers rank somewhere in between the lead and sub roles. Some groups, like NMIXX, may also have multiple mains and no leads or subs, in which case the mains outrank the other performers without superlatives. There are some presumptions baked into the distribution of lines in music video screen time affiliated with the different rankings. Main vocalists who don't receive the most lines in a song may be perceived by netizens as neglected. Main dancers who don't get dance break solos of their own may be decried as underutilized. The visual of a group is the member who the record label publicly declares most closely adheres to the Korean beauty standards, which are both standardized and unachievable to an alarming degree. If having an official prettiest member of the group strikes you as totally fucking toxic, gotta say I am on the same page as you. If you're interested in learning more about the specific Korean beauty standards, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll make a whole episode about that in the future, because boy is that a rabbit hole. Anyway, moving on. A group center is the person who's typically featured in the literal physical center of a group's choreography. This person is frequently also the visual, but not necessarily. They are, however, always one of the most charismatic members. Strong stage presence is absolutely critical for a good center to draw your eyes to the correct place on stage during a performance. A bit less common, but the face of the group is the member who represents the group visually and often acts as the spokesperson in various promotions and interviews. They might not necessarily be the leader or the most talented member, but they often have a charismatic presence and are popular among fans. For instance, Suzy from the second-gen legends Miss A was widely celebrated for her stunning visuals and represented the group in many promotional activities and endorsements. You can't always invite all of the members of every single group onto every show, so having a member who serves in this capacity as a de facto group representative can have its advantages in helping a group maintain its popularity and image. There's just one more super important group role to discuss, and it's the one I mentioned that every group has, the Maknae, which is the Korean word for the youngest member. Korean society is deeply hierarchical and places a heavy emphasis on social rankings, with seniority and age being honored not only by tradition but also by the forms of language used by all parties in conversation. Koreans will carefully select their words to conform to prescribed, deeply nuanced rules regarding formal and informal language and pronouns. Koreans use informal language with those younger than them and formal language with those who are older, meaning that the Maknae is the odd one out and will always be expected to address all of their group mates with respectful language. I hope that helped. If you want to see these dynamics in action, why don't you check out my upcoming episode where I build out the perfect K-pop girl group next. I'll link it at the end for you to enjoy once I post it. Thanks for watching. Don't be toxic, and I'll catch you next time.